Good afternoon, students. Today we are going to continue with the next chapter of the physiology. Okay, in the previous chapter, we have been discussed with the digestion as well as the breathing and exchange of respiratory gases chapter. In today's class, we shall discuss with the chapters such as the circulation and body fluids and circulation, as well as the elimination of nitrogenous waste products. First, let me discuss the synopsis of these two chapters, and later we'll discuss with the questions based on that. Body fluids and circulation. In this chapter, the chapter is divided into two parts. One is study of the fluid and the second part is the process of circulation. Fluids. So, which are the fluids that are present in our body? The fluids that are present in our body are considered to be as the blood as well as lymph. Blood is the specialized fluid connective tissue that helps in transportation of oxygen, that helps in transportation of nutrients, removal of waste products, okay, removal of carbon dioxide, transportation of ions, transportation of minerals, transportation of water, etc. Like this, it has different functions to be performed from this body fluid, that is the blood. So apart from the blood, lymph is another type of a fluid. This lymph is going to transport fat droplets from the intestine to all parts of the body. It is stored under adipocytes and it is utilized whenever there is required. So what are these blood made up of? The blood is made up of formed elements and plasma. Blood is made up of formed elements as well as the plasma. Which are the formed elements that we are going to observe in our blood? It includes RBC, WBC, and platelets. Okay, these are the three different type of formed elements that we observe in our body. RBC are also called as erythrocytes. They are responsible for transportation of oxygen, nutrients from the one part of body to another part of the body. RBC contain hemoglobin pigment. RBC is having hemoglobin pigment, and this RBC do not contain the nucleus. It doesn't possess the nucleus. RBC's lifespan is just 120 days. The process of preparation of RBC is called as erythropoiesis. Okay, it's called as erythropoiesis, which takes place inside the bone marrow. Similarly, we have WBC cells. WBC cells are also called as lymphocytes. These WBC cells are synthesized inside the bone marrow. These WBC cells are divided into A granulocytes as well as granulocytes. Two different types has been noted under the WBC. A granulocytes include lymphocyte and monocyte. Granulocytes. These granulocytes includes neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils. So they are classified on the basis of the type of the shape of nucleus that is present in them. Okay. Lymphocyte is round shaped nucleus. Monocyte contains kidney shaped nucleus. Neutrophils. The neutrophils is having polymorphonuclear lymphocyte. We will say it is having 5 lobes or well 3 lobes. They are connected to each other. In case of the basophil has S-shaped structure. Eosinophils have bilobed structure. Okay, like this we are going to carry out the process. We are going to classify them. The main function of these all lymphocytes is, what is the main function of all these lymphocytes? It's going to provide immunity to the body against the pathogenic organisms. It's going to protect our body against the pathogen. Disease causing organisms are easily attacked by these lymphocytes and that can be removed easily from our body. Okay, platelets. Platelets are also called as aggregation of cell. They are involved in the process of clotting. They secrete the enzyme thrombin, okay, that helps in clotting of the blood. Okay, next, blood grouping. ABO blood group was identified by Carl Landsteiner. Okay, he discovered that there is a presence of antigen and antibodies in our body. Antigen is present on surface of RBC, whereas antibody is present in plasma. So we are having a 4 different type of antigen, 3 different type of antigens and antibodies that are available in the nature. Okay. Antigen A has antibody B. Okay. Antigen B has antibody A. Antigen A and B no antibodies, no antigens, AB antibodies. This is referred to as A group. This is referred as B group. This referred to as AB group, and this referred to as O group. Okay, like this we have a four different type of blood groups that is done on the basis of the presence of antigen and antibody on the surface of the RBCs. So, under this particular phenomenon, we are going to discuss with the one particular disease. It's called as erythroblastosis fetalis. Erythroblastosis is a condition that is observed Erythroblastosis is observed if mother is Rh negative and father is Rh positive. In this situation, what about the newborn baby that is going to take birth for the first time? If the baby is positive, father is Rh positive if that. Okay now. So when it comes to the mother and the baby condition, mother is Rh negative. Baby is Rh positive. Okay, when this situation is observed during first pregnancy, the development of placenta takes place. The baby is also going to deliver normally. During delivery, if placenta is damaged, if placenta is damaged, there is mixing up of the fetal blood to the mother blood, so that the mother is going to develop antibodies in her body. Okay, when she develops the antibodies, that will be prepared and kept in her body. For the second time, when the Rh negative mother, when she conceives, okay, and the second time also if the baby is Rh positive, whatever the antibodies that have been prepared inside the mother's body will enter into the fetus, and it is going to break the RBCs of the fetus. Therefore, the baby is going to experience from the jaundice as well as severe anemia. It's going to experience the jaundice as well as the severe anemia. This condition is called erythroblastosis fetalis. This can be corrected. By providing an injection. It's called as ROGAM injection. ROGAM injection that is administered to the mother within 72 hours of delivery. The injection is called as ROGAM, that has to be which is delivered after 72 hours of delivery. Okay, this is called as Rh gamma globulins. Okay, so by providing this, whatever the type of Rh factor of the baby for the next consequent delivery, there will be no problem occurring to that developing baby. Then clotting of blood. So here thromboplastin. Thromboplastin is produced from the thromboplastin is secreted from the injured tissue. That thromboplastin helps in conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. This thrombin helps in conversion of fibrinogen into fibrin. Here there is a requirement of even calcium ions also. Therefore, thrombin are responsible for the clotting of the blood. Clotting factor 8 is also involved in this process. Okay. So this is about the clotting of blood. Cardiovascular system. Cardiovascular system includes cardio means heart. Vascular means blood. Okay, the combination of the heart and blood system is referred to as cardiovascular system. So cardiovascular system in our body is having two different types in an animals. One is open type of system, another one is called as closed type of the system. In open type, blood flows through the sinuses. In case of closed type, the blood flows through the blood flows in the blood vessels. That's why we call it as open and closed type of systems. Our body is having open closed type of system. So when you come to the structure of the heart, right auricle, left auricle, right ventricle, left ventricle. So heart is four chambered, having two auricles as well as two ventricles. Okay, now, so the right auricle separated by the left auricle with the help of auricular septum. Similarly, ventricles are separated by ventricular septum. So auricles and ventricles are separated by inter-auriculo-ventricular septum. The right auricles opens into right ventricle with the help of three flaps. It's called as tricuspid flap. Left auricle opens into left ventricle by two flaps. It's called as bicuspid valve or else mitral valve. It's called as bicuspid valve or the mitral valve. Okay, so from the left from the right ventricle, there is a development of an artery. What do we call this artery as? This artery, we call it as pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery is the only artery present in our body which transports the blood, deoxygenated blood, to the lungs to carry out the process of oxygenation. Left ventricle. Left ventricle, from the left ventricle, there is a development of a structure. It's called as aorta. Okay, so the aorta is the largest artery present in our body. This is going to transport the oxygenated blood to all parts of our body. So if you observe on the left auricle, the left auricle is having a very important structure. They are called as pulmonary veins. 1, 2, 3, 4. Four pulmonary veins. Pulmonary veins are the only veins present in the body which are going to receive the oxygenated blood coming from the lungs that is drained into the left auricle. Okay, so the only artery which transports the deoxygenated blood is pulmonary artery. Pulmonary veins are the only veins which are present in the body which are going to transfer the oxygenated blood from lungs to the left auricle. The heart is surrounded by The heart is surrounded by a layer called as pericardium. The pericardium is classified into two layers, parietal pericardium as well as visceral pericardium. Parietal pericardium is close to heart. Visceral pericardium is sorry, visceral pericardium is present close to the heart. Parietal pericardium is surrounding to the heart. Between these two, there is a presence of fluid. It's called as pericardial fluid, which acts as mechanical shock absorber, prevents the friction, okay, and it is going to protect the heart. Next, so This is about the structure of the heart. Comes to the double circulation. In case of double circulation, there is a presence of pulmonary circulation, systemic circulation. Pulmonary circulation takes place from right ventricle. There is a development of pulmonary artery. It transports to the lungs where exchange of gas is observed. Exchange of gas takes place and oxygenated blood is formed. This oxygenated blood enters the pulmonary veins. Through the pulmonary veins, it enters into the left auricle. Therefore, the exchange of gas takes place between lungs as well as the heart is said to be as pulmonary circulation. Systemic circulation. In case of systemic circulation, first the oxygenated blood enters left ventricle. From left ventricle, it enters in aorta. From aorta, it is distributed to different parts of body. Blood is going to form deoxygenated blood. Now this blood enters into superior and inferior vena cava and it enters into the right auricle. So the exchange takes place between the body and heart is called as systemic circulation. Okay. Considered to be as the systemic circulation. So after the double circulation, we are having conduction of heartbeat. Under conduction of heartbeat, conduction of heartbeat is done with the help of the four important structures. One is S, A, N. Second is AVN. That continues downwards as so when you observe this structure, SAN is going to send the signal to the AVN. So during this process, the SAN distributes the signals to both the auricles. Okay, this contraction is called as systole. This contraction is considered to be as the systole. Okay, so SAN is the first point. This SAN sends the signal. It's auto-excitable in nature. Action potential is generated inside the SAN. The SAN is called as pacemaker that is going to initiate the heartbeat. The SAN sent the signal to the AVN. During this transmission, impulses is transported to both the auricles. So both auricles undergo systole. Systole refers to as contraction of the auricles. Once the auricles are contracted, blood flows from auricles to the ventricles. When blood flows from auricles to the ventricles, whatever structures are present here, pulmonary artery, aorta, both of them they are having a opening called semilunar valves. So this semilunar valves are going to close. Semilunar valves are going to close. The closure of semilunar valves produces a mild sound. It is called as lub. Okay, so now SAN sends the signal to the AVN. From the AVN, the signal is transported into the signal is transported from AVN to bundle of His. When the signal is transported to the bundle of His, it divides into right bundle of His, left bundle of His, and it is transported to the Purkinje fibers. And it is transported to the Purkinje fibers. Okay, it's branched to form right and left ventricle. It is transported to form the Purkinje fibers. So now when the impulses is transported to the both right and left ventricle, the ventricles undergo contraction. This is called as ventricular systole. When ventricles undergo contraction, blood is forced to enter pulmonary artery in right ventricle and aorta in left ventricle. So blood is pumped out of the heart. During this pumping, the tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve closes with a high force closes with the high force that is going to produce a sound. It's called as dub. Lub, dub are the sounds that are produced during the conduction of the heartbeat are produced during the conduction of the heartbeat. Okay, so conduction of heartbeat is done from SAN, AVN as well as the bundle of His and Purkinje fibers. Systole is the contraction, diastole is the relaxation. Okay. Next, cardiac cycle. Cardiac cycle is equal to stroke volume What is stroke volume? Stroke volume is the volume of blood pumped by the left ventricle. Volume of blood pumped by the left ventricle is called as stroke volume. Mm. Mm. Volume of blood pumped by each ventricle is of about 70 ml. The number of heartbeat is 72. 70 into 72. 5040 ml of blood is pumped. This is called as the cardiac output. Okay, it's called as the cardiac output. So cardiac cycle, as I said to you, the systole and diastole, then after joint diastole is referred to as the cardiac cycle. Okay, so cardiac cycle is usually operated at 0.8 second. In that, systole will be just zero point 0.1 second. Okay, ventricular systole will be of 0.3 second, and the joint diastole will be 0.4 second. So this is called as the cardiac cycle. Next, ECG. So this is called P, Q, S, T. P refers to the depolarization of ventricles, depolarization of auricles. QRS refers to depolarization of ventricle, and the T refers to repolarization of ventricle. So this is when auricles undergo repolarization. Okay, QRS refers to the depolarization of the ventricles, and T refers to the repolarization of ventricles. By this phenomenon, we can able to make out can able to identify the working mode of the heart. So if there is any enlargement at the T wave, we can call that as tachycardia. So that's one particular condition that we are going to explain it. So doctors will refer or read into this particular wave, and then they are going to identify what kind of the disease the person is suffering from. Okay. This is called as ECG. It's going to produce the sound beep, 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 beep that is recorded onto the graph, and by referring into the graph, we can able to identify what kind of the so by referring into the ECG, we can able to identify the normal working condition of the heart. Then blood vessels. Artery. Arteries are present between muscles. We are going to observe the presence of the arteries. Veins. Veins are present below the skin. Okay, artery are between the muscles. Vein is present below the skin. Capillaries are the fine branches of these both artery and veins, and that helps in the transmission of that helps in the exchange of materials between the lungs and the blood. Okay, between the tissue and the blood at each and every part of the region is communicated with the help of the capillaries itself. Blood pressure. Blood pressure is identified by sphygmomanometer. Sphygmomanometer is the instrument that is used in order to sphygmomanometer is the instrument used to measure the blood pressure. Blood pressure means the lateral pressure on the atrial walls. The pressure that is created on the atrial walls are referred to as which are developed on the atrial are referred to as blood pressure. The blood pressure is usually measured at the left brachial artery. Okay, the systolic pressure is 120, diastolic pressure is 80. 120 by 80 is called normal blood pressure. Above this 120 by 80 is called as 120 by 80 is called as hypertension, and below 120 by 80 is called as hypotension. Okay, then disorders of the circulatory system. Coronary artery diseases. Coronary artery diseases are oftenly known as atherosclerosis. Here, there is a deposition of artheroma. Artheroma. The artheroma contains calcium salts. Clot, that's called as thrombin, is deposited in the inner walls of the blood vessel. Deposition of calcium, fat, cholesterol, etc. Angina. Angina is also called as angina pectoris. It's a symptom of acute chest pain, appears when not enough oxygen is reached. Reaching is said to be as angina pectoris. Heart failure. Heart failure means it's the state of heart when it's not pumping effectively. Not pumping effectively is referred to as heart failure. Next, cardiac arrest. The sudden working of heart stops is called as cardiac arrest. Heart attack, when the heart muscles are suddenly stopped. When heart muscles stopped suddenly, then it is considered to be as the heart attack. Then arthrosclerosis. Arthrosclerosis refers to the deposition of the atheroma in the coronary arteries or in any part of the heart. It's said to be as the arthrosclerosis. Coronary thrombosis, formation of the clot in the coronary artery leads to the myocardial infarction, is said to be as coronary thrombosis. Artificial pacemaker. Artificial pacemaker is the when the sun is damaged, an artificial pacemaker is installed in the heart in order to initiate the heartbeat. Is said to be as the artificial pacemaker. Okay. If there is any kind of a disturbance, that can be overcome by installation of the artificial pacemaker. These are all the synapses that are regarding to the cardiovascular system chapter are the body fluids and exchange of body fluids and circulation. Okay, let's move on to the questions. Okay, let's begin with the questions. First question. The T wave in ECG of human represents the mark. So this is the P wave, this is the QRS wave, and this will form the T wave. P, Q, R, S, and T. P, depolarization of auricle. QRS, depolarization of ventricles. T represents the repolarization of repolarization of ventricle, that's also called as ventricular diastole. The blood vessel that carry blood to the lungs for oxygenation is called brachial artery, hepatic artery, pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein. The blood vessel that carries blood to the lungs for oxygenation is called pulmonary artery. Lub dub. Lub heart sound is produced. Lub heart sound is produced when lub heart sound is produced when blood flows from right atrium to right ventricle. Blood flows from aorta during initial phase of ventricular systole. Okay, blood flows from right atrium to right ventricle. Blood flows from aorta during initial phase of ventricular diastole or joint diastole. Blood enters into left atrium from pulmonary veins. AV valve closes during initial phase of ventricular systole. ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಲಬ್ ಅಂತ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಆ ಎರಡೂ ಸೆಮಿ ಲೂನಾರ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ವ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ this AV valve closes during initial phase of ventricular systole, that is going to produce the sound lub. Blood differs from serum in presence of fibrinogen, absence of okay. Blood differs from the serum in presence of fibrinogen, absence of RBC and platelets, presence of albumin and globulin, presence of fibrinogen, albumin and globulin. Blood differs from the serum in the presence of fibrinogen. Identify the formed elements. Find the correct match. X is equal to RBC, platelets, WBC. RBC platelets as well as WBC in that eosinophil, it's the fourth one. Normally, blood contains dash amount of platelets. Okay, it contains usually 1,500 to 3,500 platelets per millimeter cube. All of the following statements are correct except T wave represents repolarization of ventricle. End of T wave marks the end of ventricular systole. QRS complex represents depolarization of ventricles. P wave represents depolarization of ventricles. So here ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ, ಒಂದು ಮಾತ್ರ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಟಿ ವೇವ್ ಮಾಸ್ ಎಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ventricular systole, right? QRS complex represents depolarization of ventricles, right? P wave represents depolarization of ventricles. No, the P wave, it represents the depolarization of auricles. Mitral valves are situated between. Mitral valve is situated on the left side between right atrium and right ventricle, left atrium, right atrium, left atrium, left ventricle. Lup sound. Lup sound is generated in heart, okay, by the closure of AV valves during ventricular systole. When AV valve closed during joint diastole, at the end of ventricular diastole due to closure of mitral valve, during ventricular systole closure of semilunar valves. When semilunar valves closes, the lup sound is going to be heard. Match the column 1 and 2 and label it. Atrial diastole. For how many minutes the atrial diastole is going to take place? So here we discuss here. Atrial diastole is just for about 0.1 second. Sorry, atrial systole is for about 0.1 second. Okay, joint diastole is for about 0.4 second. Ventricular systole is of about 0.3. Diastole is about 0.7. So the answer for this question is A to 2, B to 4, C to 1, D to 3, second one. Select the option in which heart structure and their locations are incorrectly matched. Semilunar valve at the opening of pulmonary artery, bicuspid valve between right and left ventricle. This is right, no, left barbardili. Tricuspid valve between right and right atrium, right ventricle. SAN in the upper right corner of right atrium. Okay, semilunar valve opening of pulmonary artery. So the wrong one is second. Given below is the schematic plan of body circulation in humans. Identify ABCD with their pressures and choose the correct statement. So, this is pulmonary vein, aorta, superior inferior vena cava, pulmonary artery. After identification, choose the correct option that's given below. So B is the pulmonary artery. Yes, this is going for the lungs oxygenation. C is vena cava, 45 carbon dioxide ಇದೆ. D dorsal aorta 95 mm of Hg ಇದೆ. Option D, A pulmonary artery, which is sorry. Pulmonary artery ಆಗಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ A. It is oxygenated and it is coming back. It should be the pulmonary vein ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು. So B ಇಂದ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಮಿಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಅಯೋರ್ಟಾ B ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪಲ್ಮನರಿ ಆರ್ಟರಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? C ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ವೀನಾ ಕ್ಯಾವಾ. So the right option for this is C. Which of the following is mismatched? Duration of complete cardiac cycle 0.8, cardiac output is 5045, cardiac output in stillness condition is 25 ml, normal heart rate is about 50 times. This is mismatched. Read the following statement carefully. Lub is low pitch of long duration. Dub is higher, shorter duration. Dub is produced by closure of semilunar valves at the beginning of ventricular diastole. Lub is produced by closure of tricuspid and bicuspid valve during ventricular systole. Choose the suitable option which has correct statements. Lub low pitch for long duration. Lub Dub is higher, short duration, produced by closure of semilunar valves at the beginning of ventricular diastole systole. During ventricular systole. The low pitch voice, the high pitch voice, ಆಯ್ತಾ? ವೆಂಟ್ರಿಕಲ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟೋಲ್ ಆದಾಗ ಲಪ್ ಅಂತ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಡಬ್ ಅಂತ ಬರೋದು ಡಯಾಸ್ಟೋಲ್ ಆದಾಗ. ಸೊ ABCD all the four are right. When heart is not pumping the blood effectively according to demands of the body, it is known as myocardial infarction. Fluid exuding from the clotted blood. Fluid exuding from clotted blood is plasma. Most of formed elements plasma without clotting factor, serum or 2 and 3. A reduction in the number of platelets is called thrombocytopenia. Each hemoglobin molecule has one heme group, two heme group, three heme groups, and four heme groups. Two heme groups. During embryonic life, erythropoiesis is initiated in yolk sac because there will be no development of the bone marrow in case of the embryos. Granulocytes are formed in bone marrow. Immunity is provided by erythrocytes, lymphocytes, megakaryocytes, thrombocytes by lymphocytes. Diapedesis is the characteristic feature of thrombocytes, the movement or jumping up of the platelets to the site where there is a clotting of blood takes place. Which of the following are phagocytic in nature? All of these. Dash are cell fragments rather than true cell aggregates. Select the option which fills the blank correctly. Thrombocytes. Which of the following formed element activates the plasma clotting factor? Thrombocytes. Blood group AB has no antibody. In ABO blood system or in ABO blood grouping, transfusion is not possible from A to AB, B to B to AB, O to O, as well as A to O. Transmission of blood is not possible from A to O. Erythroblastosis fetalis can occur if mother is Rh negative and fetus is Rh positive. Mother is Rh negative, fetus is Rh positive. Okay. Option 1. Platelets release. Platelets release fibrinogens, prothrombins, hemoglobin, thromboplastin. Platelets release the prothrombins. Prothrombin that helps in clotting of blood is present in blood plasma. Prothrombin is a protein, lipid, nucleotide, carbohydrate. It is a protein. Okay. Which of the following prevent blood clotting in injured blood vessels? Which of the following prevents blood clotting in uninjured blood vessel? Heparin. Lymph ultimately release the absorbed substances into lymphatic capillaries. Human heart is derived from mesoderm, mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood occurs in the heart of frog. How many cardiac cycles are performed per minute in humans? 72. In humans, volume of blood pumped out by each ventricle per minute is about volume of blood pumped out by each ventricle per minute. Okay, it's almost about 5 liters. ಇದನ್ನ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಕೊಡೋ ಬದಲು 5040 ಅಂತ ಕೊಡೋ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ 5 liters ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Oxygenated blood from the left ventricle enters into oxygenated blood from left ventricle enters into aorta. Contraction of right ventricle pumps the blood into the pulmonary artery. How many double circulations are normally completed by human heart in 1 minute? 36. No, sorry. Double circulation ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ 72. Systemic circulation of oxygenated blood starts from left ventricle. Ammonia that are transported from intestine to liver by the hepatic portal vein. Coronary sinuses carry dash to the right atrium. Select the option which fills the blank correctly. Coronary sinuses carry dash to the right atrium. Deoxygenated blood. So till now we have discussed with the till now we have discussed with the questions regarding to the body fluids and circulation. Okay, so we'll continue with the excretion, elimination of the waste product in the next class. Thank you.